So if you stick around long enough, I'm going to tell you a few things about my platform. Some of them are going to be a little controversial. At the end of the day, what I hope from folks is simply this. If we can agree on most, how about 80%? Then let's not get hung up on the 20% we don't. Right on? All right. Before I get going, let me say this. Thank you. Thank you very much to those folks, thousands of you, that have reached out and said, I'm willing to help. Look, if you can't help me financially, maybe you can share this post. Maybe you can share this message or have a good conversation with somebody at a coffee shop. Just share the message, vote Bucks, and I'm going to get in there and fight for you, but I got to win this event first, and I do believe I'm going to win. Don't worry about that. So let me talk to you about the conversation that I want to have. I believe, this is me talking, that the folks that I represent in the 16th district, they're as much concerned about that kitchen table and the things that they talk about as they are about national politics and what we're getting hung up on a daily basis on. And let me further define that. That kitchen table, to me, the one that I own, the one that you probably own, and have these conversations, it centers around the economy and inflation. It centers around our school districts and its failures. It centers around the lack of infrastructure in our roadways and speeding. And it centers around crime in our communities and in our cities and towns. Those are the topics of conversation that I hear most, and the things that I believe our local senators and representatives can have the biggest and greatest impact in. And yeah, and one other thing. Get back to folks. When they reach out to you for help, daggone it, go help them. And then you know that's what I'm going to do. And if you don't believe me, go ask your neighbor. You'll run into somebody eventually that I've helped. And I don't take that lightly. That's not braggadocious. That's just me saying to you as an elected official, not a politician, I'm here to serve because I enjoy it, because it's what I want to do. Now, let me get after it on this national stage real quick before I get back into the kitchen table. I've been on a radio show twice in the last couple of days since I announced, and the topic of conversation was not about the kitchen table. It was, however, about Second Amendment. It was about abortion, and it was about marijuana. Now, I know these topics of conversation are relevant and are important, and I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to lose sight of that when I'm elected. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in your right to legally keep and bear arms. And I do not believe that chipping away at those rights is going to get to anything that the folks today introducing these new changes is hoping to get to. I believe that marijuana, as controversial as it is, can be used legally. I've lived with a marijuana user, a medical card holder, for the last 23 years. I've never seen her high, but I have seen her when she wasn't on marijuana or using it medically. And we shouldn't be afraid to say that, and it should no longer be a stigma. If we can manage alcohol and keep it away from our youth as best we can, and it's not perfect, then we can allow for that same imperfection when we talk about marijuana. And no, I'm not a marijuana user. Copy that? Lastly, before I move on to the kitchen table, tough one, abortion. Politics, religion, and her. We ought to add abortion to that Sammy Kershaw song about things you don't talk about. But since the Supreme Court situation occurred, maybe it's time we had that conversation, and that's what I would advocate for. Why? Because I believe that that unborn child has rights. I just do. That doesn't mean that I want to take away a woman's right to have a conversation with her doctor, her God, or her husband, or others. It just simply means this. Let's have the conversation. Let's talk about what it means. Let's talk about the things that we can and can't do. And leave it at that. Right on? All right, let me move back into that. And listen, I'll get deep to it. Those are short, right? But I want to get into the kitchen table because I want folks to understand that's where I'm going to excel for you. When it comes to that kitchen table, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to crime, when it comes to lack of infrastructure, and it comes to our schools, I'm going to be a champion for you. I have the experience and the knowledge. I've been there and done it. I'm in the game right now. What do I mean by that? You know, I've worked 2-3 jobs my whole life. I had a stay-at-home wife who followed my stay-at-home mother. I know what it's like to pinch pennies and work 2-3 jobs to make ends meet. But it was the best investment I ever did for my kids. So yeah, when the economy gets out of control and we're pinching pennies, I feel your pain. And when it comes to crime, in my community and yours, I get it. It's out of control, and it starts with enforcing our laws and setting up mandates to do that, and incentivizing it, allowing, enabling our brave men and women in blue to do just that. Back the blue. Support their actions. If you don't need a cop, don't call them. But when you call a cop, when you call a police officer, allow cops to do cop things. It is what it is. Right on? When it comes to our schools, I have 2 still in school. I taught for 30 years. I know the harmful effects of mandates, not just on our kids, but on our teachers. Hear what I just said? Our educators are in the front lines dealing with ridiculous mandates. If you want my opinion, let's start cutting regulation. Let's free up these educators to excel at what they do best, and that's teaching our young kids. You want to win the fight? That's what you do. Put DOE on a diet. Put our educational system on a diet when it comes to regulation. Get back to the basics and start excelling in those things. This isn't rocket science, guys. We talk about VOTEC. Hell, I taught at VOTEC for 30 years. You know the problem with VOTEC? We went heavy on tech and light on voc. How about if we put vocation back into vocational technical school districts? I promise you, bring me to this fight. We'll start making that happen. And lastly, infrastructure before development. I was a champion of that at the county level. I fought hard against the special industries, the interest groups, who didn't want us to put these infrastructure laws in place. We won that fight. They're in place. Significant impact fees, over $10,000 per home in a new development, are now in play. We need to take that same level of fight to the state. We need to take that same level of fight and support DelDOT so that they can get after it with these roadways. We can support our policing systems that address the speeding that's out of control. Let's introduce measures that directly impact that. We need fresh blood to do that. We need energy. We need a proven track record. That might sound political until you walk over and talk to your neighbor or somebody at a coffee shop and you say, hey, I know this guy Buxton, he's running for Senate. Do you know anything about him? I like my chances. I like the chances of somebody simply saying this. Yeah, he'll definitely get after it. He's not blowing smoke. So there you go, folks. In a nutshell, 7 minutes, a little longer than I wanted. With your help, we can win this thing. God bless. Peace.